Hi, this is Shadeen from MCube Tech. Today we have the Nex Playground, so you're going to see the unboxing as I talk about the specs. So it has motion capture. It uses AI to monitor and to record and to track the motion of the player. It has an 8-core processor. And it uses Android operating system, but I can't tell you exactly what that version is. As you can see from the unboxing right here, it comes with a metal stand that's also magnetic, so that's pretty cool. And you have your typical accessories. Here you have the controller, which is circular in design. It has a one joystick, two vertical buttons, and it uses USB-C, as you'll see in a little bit, so it has a rechargeable battery. And you have your USB-C cord, or actually your HDMI cord, to connect to your TV, so it's pretty basic. So here's the cube. It's compared to a regular size Rubik's Cube. And you have your I/O, which is nothing big. And as you can see here, the stands will magnetically connect to the console. And we're gonna get to that later on, but the magnetic stand is pretty sturdy. So we have our power cord. And getting back to the controller, as you see here, this is the USB-C port. The rechargeable battery is very sturdy, high quality. The joystick is also a button, so technically it's 3 buttons. Pretty good controller, feels great. Alright, so we're gonna fire up the system. Here you have the featured games, but at the top, as you'll see in a moment, you have your settings, you have your Wi-Fi, your Play Pass, we'll get to that in a minute, your system settings, if you need any help, and then sleep pushes your console to sleep once you're done playing with it. As you can see in the settings, that's the Play Pass. You can see that my renewal in terms of how long my pass was long for. We'll talk about that later on in the review. So you see all these featured games. You have action adventure, you have music and dance, arcade, health and fitness, party games. You have games for kids that are in preschool. You have puzzle games, sports games, and then the next column you have Nex Labs, which is made by Nex Playground themselves. And then they show you what's coming soon in the coming months, so that's pretty cool. Now, as you can see in the top corner, it tells you the amount of players that you can have for each game, age rating, depending on how old your child is, and then you can see it says play with arms. So each game lets you play with different body parts. Some with just your arms, some with your legs, or some games you're gonna have to use your entire body. So that's pretty cool that it has that an indication for each game. Alright, so here I have the console at a hotel. I was on the trip, so I figured I'd bring it along. You see the case, and we'll get to that later on. So I'm firing up some games so you can get an idea of what it's like. We have Fruit Ninja. So the cool thing, like I said before, the camera tracks your body motion. It uses this AI. Here it tells me to put my hands up. And here you're gonna see the camera track my body here. It tells me to raise my hands. And now I'm in the game. So just like with Fruit Ninja on the iPhone or iPad, you're cutting fruit with your hands instead of just one finger on a screen, which is pretty cool. This game, you can use your hands to get to certain settings in the game. You don't have that option for all the games. And here we go. We're cutting fruit with our hands. As you can see, it keeps your kids, it keeps yourself active by using your body, which is pretty cool. Now here we have a party game. This game is mostly used for friends and family, as you can see here. And the cool thing about the Nex Playground is certain games you'll see yourself within the game, and it will also animate your body, as you'll see right here. Kids love this feature. They love to be animated, so it adds a form of fantasy realism to the game. Here we have Sesame Street, Elmo Says, which is great for young kids. And each game tracks players differently depending on what kind of game it is. And you'll see here in a minute. So you can see here, each player will have a spotlight. Each player will have to stand under their own spotlight so the camera can track them accordingly, as you'll see here. So it tells me to raise my hands. I raise my hands up, and then the game gets started. And it's a typical game of Elmo Says. It tells you to do certain activities depending on if he says it or not. And you can tell on the top screen you have your points. So it's a pretty cool game for the kids. And if you're a teacher, a PE teacher, it's great for the classroom. Great to have in groups. Now there are other games called, such as this one, Marorama, which is not really a game. It's kind of like an activity type base game where the kids can just be silly, just be fun. This is your twins, so it creates a double. Wherever you move, it copies your movement, like an echo, which is pretty cool. And then you have the Neon Fest, whereas like you're at a neon party where you're hitting the targets and it's exploding, which is kind of cool. Here you have the lightning, so if your kid wants to be Thor or Miles Morales Spider-Man or anything like that, that's pretty cool. They can play with that to their imagination. It's a lot of fun. Alright, the next game we have is Fireworks, which is pretty cool. Kids just throw their hands around and fireworks go off. This game right here is just a simple make you into a puzzle, which is pretty cool. Alright, moving on, we have the Nex Playground case. I think everybody should buy it because the console is extremely portable. So if you're going to take it to different places or to your school, to your hotel, to a family outing, this case is pretty much necessary because if you keep picking up your controller and throwing it in your bag, it's going to get worn out from wear and tear, so you don't want that. You want to keep your console nice and pristine as long as you can. I have my magnetic plate right here, and you're going to see that this case wasn't actually designed for this magnetic plate, which is a odd design choice, as you're going to see in a minute. So that just tells me that there's two versions of this console. My friends and family that have bought this console, they did not get a magnetic plate, and the controller is different, and we're going to get to that later on. So as you see, I'm putting all my accessories, my cords in the case, which goes in just fine. The controller fits the grooves nice and tidy, as you're going to see. But I'm going to really harp on that magnetic plate because you're going to see that the case was not designed for that plate. So if you have the same console version that I have, you're going to have, it's not a huge issue, but it's going to be kind of annoying getting that magnetic plate into the case. So I'm here trying to figure out how to put this plate in the case. So I figure I'll put it on, put it in the case, but that didn't work. As I zip up the case is lopsided, and I didn't like that. So I decided to take it back out, take it off the console, and to put it in another pocket where my power cord is. And you're going to see that it's not an exact fit, and I'm going to have to force that magnetic plate into the pocket, which is kind of concerning because I didn't want to rip the pocket, but I was able to put it in there. Zip it up, and it's nice and tidy, and it's straight. So just keep that in mind if you have the first version console like I have, if you're buying that case. Alright, so here we're going to go to the website so you can see the options that you have if you're trying to figure out if this console is for you. So here are the options you're going to see here are the stores you can buy the console from. This little short clip, Walmart has a demo, so if you want to try it out for yourself, you have an option for that. The console is $250. I was able to get it for $180 on Amazon because they have discount prices. Some Walmarts have it for $200. Now here we see the catalog of games. We're going to explore some of these games here. When you buy the console, it comes with the first 5 games. Now keep in mind, if you don't have Pay Pass, Even with these 5 games, you will not have all the settings, you won't have all the options for these games, so keep that in mind. Which I thought was kind of a bummer. I felt like if you have 5 free games, you should have access to the game completely, but you will not have everything those games have to offer until you get that pay pass. Here you can see the catalog of games that you have available to you if you buy that pay pass, and we'll get to that later on in the review. Now, if you're into merch, there's an option for that as well. So here's the case. The case goes for $25. I believe if you're going to buy it, you should get the case. Now, they have the latest news, but I circled this here because they have consoles in different colors, but I didn't see that as an option. Now, the controller here, this is the version 2 controller. You're going to see in this clip how it's different from mine. This is oval, mine's circular. I have an actual joystick, this one doesn't. It has a circular type button, horizontal buttons, while mine has vertical. Now, mine has a rechargeable battery, USB-C, but this one does not. It uses 2 AA batteries. So if you have a version 1 and you lose your version 1 controller, your only option is to buy version 2. And I know not everybody is a fan of batteries, some are. And remember, I bought my console from Amazon. Now here is interesting. So when it comes to the health and fitness games, they have challenges that you can join as a parent, with your kids, as a family, whatever you see fit. Now here's the cool thing. Apparently, I haven't done it yet. Apparently, if you do these challenges, you're able to win digital and physical rewards if you get these challenges done in their time frames that they have listed. Their website tells you all the details that you need to know to get those done. It tells you that the games are played each day, I believe, depending on what kind of fitness game that you're in. So I actually like that a lot because it's going to motivate you and might motivate your kids to do these fitness games to keep themselves nice and healthy. So I believe that's a great option to have. That's a big plus in my book. In terms of the pay pass, now the other games that it has to offer, I'm not too sure, simply because each kid is different, everybody's different. My kid only loves certain games that the Nex Playground has to offer and doesn't like the entire catalog. So if your kid is not into the health games and some of the other games, that could be an issue, as we're going to get into right here in the next segment when it comes to the pay pass. Okay, so again, I like the option with the health games. I will try that out. I will do a review of that later on in the future. Now here we have the pay pass. 2 options, the $90 for 12 months, the $50 for 3 months. If you keep doing the 3 month, you're going to end up paying $200 plus tax for an entire year. So obviously the best offer is the $90. Now again, if your kid doesn't like all the games, then it's going to be a hard sell. I'm kind of burnt down on the subscriptions because everybody wants to do a subscription now. You got video streamings, you got your Game Pass for Xbox, and you got Sony, now you have Nintendo. That's a lot of subscriptions added on to your Disney Plus, your Hulu. That's just a lot. If I had an option, I'd rather just download the games to the console because the console comes with 64 gigs. I know that's not a lot, but the games are not that big to begin with, so that shouldn't be a problem. I wish I had an option to download games. If you're not a fan of subscriptions, then this console is not going to be for you. So you have to keep that in mind. If they come out with the new Nex Playground console, I'm hoping that they do make that an option where you can actually download your games instead of paying for a subscription. Because again, if your kid only likes 3 or 4 games out of that entire catalog, it's pretty much going to be a no-go. You're pretty much going to be wasting your money and you're not going to get much out of it. Even when they're coming out with games coming out soon in their catalog, that's not a guarantee that your kid or even you will enjoy those games. That's my biggest downside. Not the biggest fan of subscriptions. I'd rather have the option to download, but everybody's different. So a few things before this video comes to a close. The Nex Playground does have HDR and it can display in 4K. Also, the games do save on the console. It's like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass, where the games are on the console. They are being downloaded on the console. However, once your Play Pass is over, you will not have access to those games anymore until you renew your Play Pass. Also, I failed to mention that the magnetic cover for the console, as we have here, you have to ask yourself, is it worth buying the Nex Playground? With other gaming consoles that are accessible, you have the Switch 2, Xbox, PlayStation, you've had other consoles in the past, like the Kinect, the Wii, the Wii U. So is it really worth it? That's the question you have to ask yourself, which just comes down to preference and price. Switch 2 right now goes for $450 or $500 without taxes. So you have a lot to think about when you're buying gaming consoles. How long is the service going to last for? How long are they going to update the console? How long will this console be in production? Will there be a successor to this console? That's a lot of questions to be asked. If you feel comfortable with getting that console and going forward with it, then you're good. If not, then you're pretty much going to move on. I feel like this console is more geared towards groups in terms of family gatherings, classrooms, maybe even events. I feel like that's the strong suit of the Nex Playground. If that doesn't apply to you, maybe this console is just not for you. All those things you have to consider when buying the console. So that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you like this video, like and subscribe. Also, if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I have the Switch 2 video here. Go ahead and click on it, and I'll see you guys later.